geometry students, in this video we will be reviewing the major topics and principles that were taught this semester. Please take really good notes. The information that is presented in class today and the next 2 school days will be the information that the semester exam covers. Trust me, listen to me, the better, neater, and more organized your notes are, the easier it will be for you to study when it comes time to study. Alright, so please take really good notes. Here we go. If you would like to write down a heading, then the heading would be semester review. So if you want to copy that down, please feel free to do that. And today's date would also be something you probably want to write down, okay? So semester review and include today's date. Okay, here we go. Let me pause and say this. If I go too fast during the video, just raise your hand and have the supervising teacher pause the video. Okay? Alright, here we go. I will not be putting any fill in the blanks on the test. Okay? I'm pretty sure I can hear you guys cheering all the way to Ringgold, Georgia. Alright? I will probably put some listing on the test, but you will know exactly what those listing questions will be. For example, I'm not saying that these will be on the test, but here are some listing types of questions. Name the 5 characteristics of a parallelogram. Name the 6 ways to prove that 2 lines are parallel. Name the 6 ways to prove that a quadrilateral is a parallelogram. Name the 2 characteristics of a rhombus, of a rectangle, etc., etc. You get the point. So all of the listing questions, I will tell you as we come across those. Okay, let's continue on. Please write down these next thoughts. Again, they will not be on the test as fill in the blanks, but you need to know these so that you can answer questions on the test. Okay? Parallel lines have the same slope. Please write that down. Parallel lines have the same slope. If the slope of one line is 2/3, then a parallel line will also have a slope of 2/3. Parallel lines have the same slope. Number 2, perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. Opposite reciprocal slopes. What that means is this: if one slope of a line is -2/3, then a line that is perpendicular to that line would have a slope of positive. Opposite means you change the sign. Positive. Reciprocal means you flip it. So there you go. If the slope of one line is -2/3, then the slope of the perpendicular line would be +3/2. Perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. Number 3, collinear points are points that lie on the same line. Please copy that down. And while you are copying that down, go ahead and copy this down also. Coplanar points are points that lie on the same plane. As you're copying this down, remember, once again, I am saying there will be no fill in the blanks on the test, but still copy this down. I'm not saying that you don't have to know these. You have to know these to help you solve problems on the test, okay? But they will not be fill in the blanks. Okay, if I go too fast, just let the teacher know. Moving on. Okay, let's copy down this problem. Let's do this together. Do the 2 linear equations have graphs of lines that are parallel, perpendicular, or neither? Explain your answer. Okay, copy this down, please. Do the 2 equations have graphs of lines that are parallel, perpendicular, or neither? Okay, here's the one equation. Here's the other equation. Students, especially those that have only had 1 year of algebra, please listen to me carefully. Anytime a linear equation has y all by itself, the slope is the coefficient of the x. Let me say that again. Anytime a linear equation has y isolated, all by itself, the coefficient of the x will be your slope. So, is y all by itself? Yes, it is. What number is next to the x? -3. So what is the slope of this line? -3. Remember, M stands for slope. Please don't forget that. Now, students, come over here. Is y all by itself? Yes. What number is next to x? 1/3. 6 is not the slope. 1/3 is next to x, so 1/3 is the slope. Now, are these two lines perpendicular? Well, let's go back a page. Excuse me. Are these two lines of these graphs parallel? Well, let's go back a page. Parallel lines have the what? Same slope. Well, the slopes aren't the same, are they? So these two lines are not parallel. Maybe they're perpendicular. Let's see. Perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. Opposite means they have different signs. Reciprocal means one is flipped when compared to the other. It looks like to me that these two lines are perpendicular, and here's why. One slope is negative, one slope is positive. If you put 3 over 1 and flip it, you get 1/3. Or if you take 1/3 and flip it, you get 3. So these two slopes are opposite and they're reciprocal. So the answer would be perpendicular, and the reason would be the slopes are opposite reciprocals. Okay, I'm going to pause a minute while you finish your notes, then we're going to go on. You need to be familiar with this kind of stuff. Very, very important. Okay, moving on. Copy this in your notes, please. Point A is 1, 2. Point B is 4, 4. Point C is 3, -1. Point D is -3, -5. Find the slope of segment AB, segment AC, and segment DC. Okay? Find the slopes of those three segments. I'll wait a second while you copy this down. Okay, here we go. We're going to find the slope of AB. So we're going to use this point and this point. Remember how to find the slope? Y minus y over x minus x. You will need to know that for your test. This formula right here. Okay? Alright, y minus y. 2 minus 4. X minus x. 1 minus 4. 2 minus 4 is -2. 1 minus 4 is -3. Negative over negative is positive. Positive 2/3 is the slope. Positive 2/3. Alright, next, let's find the slope of AC. So point A and point C. Here we go. Y minus y. 2 minus a -1. X minus x. 1 minus 3. 2 minus a -1 is 2 plus 1, which is 3. 1 minus 3 is -2. A positive over a negative is -3/2. Okay, moving on to our last segment, we're going to find the slope of DC. DC. So we're going to use point C and point D. And here we go. Alright. Y minus y. -1 minus -5. X minus x. 3 minus -3. That would give us -1 plus 5 would be 4. 3 minus -3, 3 plus 3 is 6, and that reduces to 2/3. Okay. parallel? Well, remember, guys, parallel lines have the same slope. Well, looks like AB has a slope of 2/3. DC has a slope of 2/3. So I'm going to say that AB is parallel to DC. Okay? Now, which of the segments are perpendicular? Well, look, guys, this slope is what? Positive. This slope is negative. This is 2/3. This is 3/2. So AB is perpendicular to AC. And you could also say AC, this segment here, is perpendicular to this segment here, DC. Okay? Let all that sink in. Finalize your notes. I'll give you a second to do that. And then we're going to go ahead and move on. Be very familiar with slopes. Okay, here we go. Let's review the midpoint formula now. Please copy this in your notes. Here it is. Please copy this down. This is the midpoint formula, and I probably should have labeled that. So feel free to label this. This is the midpoint formula. When you are given 2 points, and I ask you to find the point, the ordered pair that lies between 2 given points, you use this formula right here. X plus X divided by 2, Y plus Y divided by 2. Okay, so here we go. Please copy this problem in your notes. Find the midpoint between these 2 ordered pairs here. Find the midpoint between those 2 ordered pairs. You can work ahead or you can watch me. That's up to you. Okay, remember, this is your X, this is your Y, this is your X, this is your Y. So here we go. X plus X, 5 plus negative 4. Divided by 2, comma, Y plus Y divided by 2, negative 6, plus a negative 8. Now, students, I'm going to be honest with you. You really, by this age, should have mastered your signed numbers by now, positives and negatives. However, if you haven't, at this point, you are allowed to use calculators. So if you struggle with these, feel free to use a calculator, okay? Here we go. 5 plus a negative 4 is 1. Look at it like this. You have 5 positive dollars, and you owe $4, so you have $1 left. Over here we have negative 6, that means you owe $6, and then plus you owe $8 more, so it's a negative and a negative. You now owe $14. That's a good way to look at it. Okay, or just use your calculator. So negative 6 plus negative 8 is negative 14 over 2. Alright, so your final answer would look like this. 1/2, comma, negative 7, okay? Because negative 14 divided by 2 is negative 7. Okay, so students, that is how you find the midpoint between 2 given points. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. Students, please write down this figure. Please write down this figure. Here it is. Angle ABC with D in the middle. Please copy that down. Next, copy this down. Point D is in the interior of angle B. Okay, copy that down, please. You need to know that phrase. Point D is in the interior of angle B. Point D is in the interior of angle B. Please copy that down. Now, copy this problem down. The measure of angle ABC is 88 degrees. Point D lies in the interior of angle ABC. If angle ABD is 42, what is the measure of angle DBC? Now, students, this should be really simple, okay? First of all, let me pause. I will just pause here and quit talking while you copy this down. So please quickly copy this problem down. You can paraphrase degrees if you want to, and leave out certain words. That's fine. Just get the main idea of the problem. Okay, here we go. Now, students, it says the measure of ABC is 88. So this whole angle here is 88 degrees. Please don't forget that. Now, point D lies on the interior. Then it says angle ABD. So we've got to draw a ray here. Okay, we've got to draw a ray through point D. Okay, so the whole angle together is 88. Okay, angle ABD is 42. So this little angle right here, ABD, is 42 degrees. What is the measure of DBC, this little angle right here? Well, students, think about it. If the whole angle is 88, and part of that 88 is 42, subtract out the 42, and what you're left over with has to be this little angle down here, 46 degrees. So the answer is 46. Now we call this angle addition, angle subtraction, whatever you want to call it. But that is what we did there, and you need to be familiar with that and be able to do that, okay? Alright, moving on. You also need to remember what segment addition is. Please write this down. If A is between B and C, then, let me go ahead and write that for you. A is between B and C. So here's B, here's C, and A's in between them. By the way, it doesn't mean that A is right in the middle, okay, at all. It could mean this. A could be right there, okay? BA, the segment from here to here, plus the segment from here to here, equals the entire segment BC. So BA plus AC equals BC. That's called segment addition. Also, please write this down. This is really, really important. Please copy this down. In geometry, when we say that a point is between 2 points, it also means that the 3 points are collinear. Now, I'm going to say that again. Please copy this down. In geometry, when we say that a point is between 2 points, it means that the point is between them. That's fine. But it also means that all 3 points are collinear. You need to know that. Okay, I'll pause for a couple seconds. Please write that down. Okay, let's continue on. Now, on segment HK, J lies between H and K. So let's stop right there. Let's get a picture of this. I'm going to draw it really big so we got plenty of room, okay? Here we go. We'll put H here, K over here, and we'll put J about right here, okay? J lies between H and K. HJ is 6W minus 5. JK is 4W minus 6. KH is 129. So the whole segment from here, from H all the way down to K, that whole segment is 129. The entire segment. Okay, so find the value of W. Okay, think about it, students. I know if I take this segment here, HJ, plus this segment here, JK, it'll equal the entire segment, which is what? 129. So I'm going to write a nice algebra equation. Alright, I'm going to get a little room here to work, and here we go. Alright, HJ is 6W minus 5 plus JK, which is 4W minus 6, equals the whole segment, which is 129. So let's simplify our left side over here. 6W plus 4W is 10W. Negative 5, negative 6 is negative 11. Now let's get W by itself. Bring the negative 11 over, make it a positive. And we're left with 10W equals 140. Okay, divide both sides by 10 and W equals 14. So there we did the first part. We found the value of W. Now it says find the measure of segment HJ. So here's HJ. Well guys, we can do this very easily. Find the measure of HJ. What is HJ? 6W minus 5. But what's W? 14. So where W is, we simply put 14. And then it becomes a calculator problem. 6 times 14, which is 84, minus 5 is 79. There we go. So the measure of segment HJ is 79. Alright, let's continue on. Now, students, you will also need to know the distance formula. Okay, you will also need to know the distance formula. So please copy this down in your notes. Copy this down. The square root of the quantity x minus x squared plus the quantity y minus y squared. You need to know the distance formula, okay? Copy that down quickly, please, and we're going to continue on. Okay, here we go. Now, I'm not worried about finding the midpoint, okay? Although students, do be careful. One of the most common mistakes out there is students get the distance formula and the midpoint formula confused, or sometimes they kind of do something really wacky and they combine the two. Like they'll use minus signs here instead of pluses and use plus signs over here or something like that. So make sure you know these two formulas really well. Okay, let's find the distance between these 2 points here. So we need our distance formula right here. Okay, so square root of x minus x. Well, this is my x and this is my x. So 3 minus a negative 1. Quantity squared plus y minus y. Well, this is my y, 4. This is my y, 2. So 4 minus 2 quantity squared. Okay, now let's come back over here. 3 minus a negative 1 is 4. 4 squared is 16 plus 4 minus 2 is 2 and 2 squared is 4. So the answer would be the square root of 20. Now, if you want to type that into a calculator to get your final answer, that's fine. I don't mind that. I'm looking to see if I have my calculator close by. I do not, but you can do that, or you can take the square root of 20 and split it up into 4 times 5. Take the square root of 4, which is 2, put a 2 on the outside, and you can write this for your answer also. Okay, either way is fine. But students, make sure you know how to find the distance between 2 points. Okay, and here's the distance formula that you need to know. Alright, let's continue on. Let's practice now writing a statement in if-then form. Okay, let's practice that. Here we go. You should be able to state which part of the statement is. This should be is, not if. You should be able to state which part of the statement is the hypothesis and which part is the conclusion. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to take this phrase right now, we're going to write it in if-then form, and then label the hypothesis and the conclusion. Please copy this down, students. Write the given statement in if-then form. Copy this down, please. I prepare dinner only on Wednesday nights. Now, sometimes students, it is easy to get the if and the then part turned around. So here's what I encourage my students to do, okay? Let me get my keyboard out here. Hold on a second. I encourage you guys in the test to write it both ways and just see which one makes sense. For example, if I prepare dinner, then it is Wednesday night. Okay, that's one way to write it. Do you see that? Take a look at that. if I prepare dinner, then it's Wednesday night. Now let's write it another way, okay? I could also say, if it is Wednesday night, then I will cook dinner. There we go. Now, let's ask ourselves which one of these two statements is really being said in this statement up here, okay? I prepare dinner only on Wednesday night, so if I prepare dinner, then it is Wednesday night, alright? Or, if it is Wednesday night, then I will cook dinner, alright? It says I prepare dinner only on Wednesday nights. It does not say that this person cooks dinner every Wednesday night. It's saying I prepare dinner only on Wednesday nights. So if I prepare dinner, then it is Wednesday night. That is the correct way to write this in an if-then statement, okay? I prepare dinner only on Wednesday nights. But it does not say that I'm going to prepare dinner on every Wednesday night. It's just saying I prepare dinner only on Wednesday nights. So if I prepare dinner, then it's Wednesday night, okay? This one here is not correct. Now, students, let me ask you a question. Which part of the if-then statement is the conclusion, and which part is the... You can tell I typed this in a hurry, can't you? Which part of the if-then statement is the conclusion, and which part is the hypothesis? Alright, well, let's go back and look. The if part is always the hypothesis. Please don't forget that, students. Okay. So, if I prepare dinner is the hypothesis, and the part here, then it is Wednesday night, is what we call the conclusion. If this happens, then this will happen. So your if part is always your what? Hypothesis, and your then part is always your what? Conclusion. Okay? Alright, continuing on. Now, another principle that we learned that you need to be familiar with is writing a statement in if and only if form. And you need to know what if and only if means. You need to know, okay? Alright, here we go. Copy this down, please. Write the following statement in if and only if form. An equilateral triangle has 3 congruent sides. An equilateral triangle has 3 congruent sides. Please copy this down, and then we're going to write it in if and only if form. Okay, now students, these can be a little difficult, so please listen to my tip, okay? My tip is this. Whenever you're writing an if and only if statement, usually, not always, but 99% of the time, you want to start off your statement by saying something is something. Okay? Let me say that again. Anytime you're writing a statement in if and only if form, you want to start off by writing something is something. For example, an equilateral triangle. So I'm going to say a triangle is equilateral. See how I did that? So I start off by saying something is something. A triangle is equilateral if and only if it has 3 congruent sides. There it is. Now that's how you do it. So on the exam, if I ask you to write a statement in if and only if form, try to start off by saying something is something. That's the best way to do it. Now students, please listen to me. I might ask you this question on the test. What's the big deal? Why are we writing something in if and only if form? Well, here's why. Whenever something is written in if and only if form, that means you can write you can write it in if-then form, and then you can also write the converse, and both of them are true. Let me show you what I mean. Please take some good notes on this, okay? If a lies, then it is equilateral. Students, if I'm going too fast, just have the teacher pause the videos, but you need to write all this down and listen to me. On the exam, I very well could ask you, what does if and only if mean? And you need to understand what it means. It means that you can write the statement in if-then form, and then you can write the converse, and both of those will be true. And guys, we know that converses are not always true, okay? I could say, if I have a Prius, which I do, if I have a Prius, then I have a car. I'm just trying to scribble fast here. Then I have a car. But if you turn that around, it's not necessarily true. You can't say, if I have a car, then it must be a Prius. It could be, I might have 2 or 3 cars, okay? And so we know that converses are not always true. But when a statement is written in what form? If and only if form, then we know for sure that the statement is true. However you want to write it, it doesn't matter. And its converse is also true. That's what if and only if means. And then also be able to write a statement in if and only if form. A triangle is equilateral if and only if it has 3 congruent sides. Okay? Alright, moving on. Now, please listen carefully, students, to this next part. I am not saying that you need to have these properties memorized, okay? But you need to be familiar enough with them to be able to match them up with a correct example of the property, okay? Let me show you what I mean. You need to be familiar with these, all of these properties. Okay, now I'm not going to take time and match all these up for you, but you need to know these, okay? Be familiar with them. Like, I will give you a couple hints, okay? Listen, when you see an equal sign, then you know it has to be a property of what? Equality. It's not going to be a property of congruence. It's going to be a property of equality, okay? And then what do we know when it's A equals A? Well, that's reflexive. So we're looking for the reflexive property of equality. There it is, right there, okay? Now, when I see this one here, I see congruent symbols, so I know my equality ones are not going to be it, okay? It's only going to be the ones that say congruence. Now here's what it says. If A is congruent to B, then B is congruent to A. Alright? Now, whenever we have something's congruent to something, A is congruent to B, and then we turn it around, B is congruent to A, we call that symmetry or symmetric. So we're looking for symmetric property of congruence. There it is, and so on and so forth. Hopefully I've given you some time to copy these down. Now, if you don't want to copy all those down right now, that's fine, but I'm telling you, you're responsible for these properties, okay? Alright, moving on. You can finish these later if you want to, okay? Now, you should also be able to give a counterexample for a statement that is false. So if I give you a false statement and say, write a counterexample, thus proving the statement false, you should be able to do that. Give a counterexample for the following example. Here it is. If 2 angles are complementary, and what does complementary mean? That means their sum is what? 90 degrees. If 2 angles are complementary, then their measures are 32 and 58. That's not true. That is not true. Just because 2 angles are complementary doesn't mean their measures will be this. So what's a counterexample? There's tons of them. 40 and 50. There we go. Those 2 angles are what? Complementary. But they're not those 2 angles. I mean, there's so many different answers you could give here. Okay? So make sure you know how to give counterexamples that prove a statement false, okay? Alright, and then, let's see, what else do we have here? That might be it. Yeah, that's it. Okay, students, so there's day 1. We basically hit the overview of chapters 1 and 2 today, for the most part, okay? And of course, we know as we go along, the chapters get more difficult. Thus, you understand the review is going to get more difficult also, okay? But that's it for today. notes on tomorrow.